being a gay football fan, is it kind of like, are you a overshadowed, oppressed group? Like, how do you feel? Do you feel kind of, do you feel
I don't
unique,
know.
special and different? How does it feel?
Oh, so unique. I don't know. I think there's a lot of misconception, both in the kind of footballing world and in the gay world. I think, most gay guys and I guess like queer people as a broader kind of population that I speak to about football have understandable kind of preconceived notions of what the like attitudes in football are towards sexuality. It is still like for all of the change, the systemic change that's happened and kind of like the institutional change that's happened within the different clubs and everything over the last 10 years, there have been a lot of initiatives to do with like inclusivity, that's to do with queerness, it's also to do with disabilities, it's also, like a lot of, minority groups. But specifically when it comes to like gay people and queer people, there have been a number of initiatives over the last like decade, like the Rainbow Laces movement, which you might have seen something to do with. It was like a collaboration with Stonewall, and I remember like around that time, actually 2014, that Arsenal did one of the first kind of collaborations with them. There's this really funny video you can still find on YouTube, where it's like all of the players being like, "It's not my fault that I'm X or Y." And then Olivier Giroud, who's like the French striker, goes, "It's not my fault that I'm gorgeous," and then sprays himself, shirtless because he's ripped his shit and absolutely gorgeous, as he said himself. And yeah, it's I think there's been a lot of change, but people still think it's like really really retrograde. Still great, like I say, it's still like it's kind of like a hyper-macho environment, and I've been to games and I've heard isolated chants, especially directed at certain teams, that could be interpreted as homophobic, or at least I found. I wasn't offended. I don't really get offended by that sort of thing. I kind of occupy the privilege where I don't have to worry about it. But like, I was kind of like, not really sure about that. And then when it comes to like the football world, I guess I've already kind of talked about it. Like there are still like some people who are kind of like homophobic, but that's also representative of like general society, right?
But is there anyone? If I remember rightly, there's one guy who's out. I remember he was quite a young guy.
Yeah, you're probably thinking of Jake Daniels.
Maybe.
Yeah, he was I'm not sure where he's playing now, but when he came out, I actually profiled him for GQ. He was a youth player for Blackpool, who at the time were in League One, so the third division of English football.
As in the bottom one?
No.
How does it go? No, the second.
So the top one's Premier League, second one's Championship, third one's League One, then it's League Two, then it goes National League, blah, 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 blah. But like league football that you'd watch on TV is basically the top four leagues. Okay. And Blackpool were in League One at the time, I think, not performing so well. And I'm not sure what has kind of like come of him.
Is he the only one
in the UK? Not the only one. And I'd be kind of hard pressed to think of any other specific names. I think there is an out gay player in one of the lower leagues in Scotland. Again, fact check me on that. There's also another player called Josh Cavallo from like an international perspective. But it's very much still something that is it's there isn't much open queerness around.
Yeah.
No,
I wonder what is, because there's definitely more there. Obviously, we know that.
I've thought about this a lot. There are the kind of like the social questions and the social pressures and stuff. There was again, I'm kind of like going off memory from when I've done this research previously, and I'm talking like years ago really now. But I'm pretty sure that the government commissioned a report called Homophobia in Sport, and one of their findings was that like while homophobia is less present on in the stands and within like kind of like football at a professional Premier League level, like you wouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't typically go into a changing room and find like a professional player who would like actively espouse like homophobic views, although there have been examples. It's more like the youth level. There's like there's kind of like casualized homophobia, like with kids who are just coming through. So that would go some way in explaining why there isn't an openly gay player in the Premier League now, or an openly gay player in one of the top leagues now. because if you're queer and you're a kid, you kind of get put off at that early level, right? Or you are conditioned to repress it as much as possible, and then either you treat it as something that's entirely separate to your footballing identity, and then maybe you come out after you've finished your career. Some players have done that. Again, I'm kind of blanking on names, but like there are players definitely have done that. And yeah, there is so many different questions in there. I also don't think, or at least I wouldn't imagine, that it's the same kind of like proportion of gay players as we'd see in like wider society. Well, like the stats are usually assigned to somewhere between like 2 and 5 or 6% of like of the UK or the US describe themselves as LGBTQ plus in some way. I don't think that we'd have like the same kind of ratio within the Premier League. I think it would be like a much smaller number.
Fair
but
enough.
I would because of those social pressures and things like that, like kind of like pushing people out early on or pushing out queer players early on. But I'd also still be like very surprised if like there wasn't at least a couple.
Yeah. I do think sometimes that sports, and like, come on, I haven't played proper sports since like 13 or 14 or something like that.
You go to the gym and everything.
Well, I go to the gym, but that's like solo. Do you know what I mean? That's like solo. But like sports, being in a sports team, there's something very intimate about it, and it's like a bunch of guys. So you're also, there's physical contact. There's that joke about men come up with elaborate rituals to be able to touch each other. Do you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of kind of homoerotica around it. So actually, if someone is actually gay, that goes from being a joke in a game to being like a bit too real. So it's like maybe that's where it comes from. And then like men all together is very like, there's bravado, there's macho-ness and all of that stuff. Like
which is why it's fun, playing, because I play for a gay team. I play for a team called Stonewall FC. I should say I play for the 4th team, which is the lowest tier team, because I'm not very good.
But I thought you were like, did I not see you were like managing someone?
I was managing one game over the weekend. I'm also captain of the team. I was very happy to be
so there's
voted with that privilege.
Teams of Stonewall FC.
Of Stonewall FC, yeah. So the first team.
And how many in each team?
What players? It's
like
tough.
12?
No, somewhere around 15 to 20 probably for a squad pool for each team. I mean, it varies completely, and I don't want to speak for any of the managers.
So there were like 80 homosexual football players.
Well, the group chat for Stonewall's Five-a-Side session on a Thursday has something like 140 people. It's predominantly queer or queer identifying. There are quote unquote allies. I don't really like the term allies, but there are.
Why not? What is it? Is it just
I don't
cringe?
know. I just find it a bit cringe. Yeah, I do. I also think it's a bit like inadvertently alienating sometimes. I think that like if a straight person wants to involve themselves with like queer activities, queer spaces, things that like I as long as it's like respectful.
Yeah, I don't know, actually.
I don't see a problem with it personally.
Well, I don't see a problem with it, but there is something, and I wonder what it is about me, but there is something that when I hear, right, you've got a gay football team or a queer football team, and like there's some straight guys in it, I'm kind of like, why? What are you doing here?
Well, I guess it kind of goes from person to person. Like, again, I don't want to like speak. I don't want to air out anybody's like personal lives or anything like that. But like, one player who comes to mind has like 2 mums. Has lesbian mums. So it's like some kind of adjacent to like the queer experience. My best friend, I don't think he might mind me talking about him, but because I've known him for 25 years, Tony is the manager of my team. There's no nepotism there. I promise. He came to the club afterwards. He's just like got a great footballing mind, and we are so like glad to have him. And he's actually like, he's harsher to me than he is to anybody else. I think is an overcorrection. But like he's been so kind of like. He's embraced the kind of like queer scene so much as part of my coming out journey, as part of my kind of like my own activity on the queer scene and stuff. And that extends to Stonewall. And now he's like one of the most kind of like, admired and respected players and kind of like teammates and participants within the club, because he gives so much of it so much of himself to it. So in that case, it's like, well, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like,
persuaded
as long
me.
as you're kind of like, there is still that ratio of queerness, or like the predominant like ratio of queerness, I think, because I think that's important to kind of preserve. But if it's an inclusive space, and I think that's kind of go both ways for the most part.
So tell me more about this team, right? Is it a full league of gay teams would you play against?
Yeah.
There's a full league of
more,
gay.
there's more than one.
I didn't
full
know that
league
there's
of
this
gay
many.
teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
In like England, UK, or whatever.
In the UK,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So the league that we play in is called the LUL, the London Unity League. We actually play in the second tier of the LUL because we're so good. And it was second of two tiers. That was the joke. And I think that's 7 teams in there. One of them is another club that I'm kind of associated with vaguely because my flatmate plays for and kind of like does a little bit of management for them, called East End Phoenix, and they're gorgeous people. All of the teams basically are full of like gorgeous guys, both like, well, physically and also spiritually. There's a team called Tigers, there's a team called Titans, so based in Clapham, so you got like all the Clapham games who play for Titans basically. It's a great kind of like diversity of queer football guys basically. So there's 7 teams in LUL2. I think there's another 7 or 8 teams in LUL1, and then there's like a nationwide league called the GFSN. I'm actually not sure what that stands for, but it's called the GFSN. And that again is kind of like inclusive and queer identifying teams.
Wow.
From Manchester, from I'm sure Liverpool, from Brighton, from just Southampton, like just from all over the place. So
it's crazy.
It's an entire like another world. I don't want to call dibs on the eventual screenplay, but or the TV show that somebody writes about it. But just if anybody has any ideas, don't take it from me.
Wait, isn't there? What's that play? Oh, wasn't there a gay football play? And I'm pretty sure Russell Tovey was in it. At some point
he was in a film, which
I think that was an
adaptation,
of a
which was called Pass or something.
Maybe
it was some kind of
like
double
DL,
entendre.
DL
that kind of
vibes.
thing. I didn't see it, but yeah.
I didn't. I don't know why I'm so shocked that there are so many gay football teams. In my mind, it's kind of like trying to get 6 guys together on a Sunday. Like, please, guys.
There are loads of us.
Yeah.
There are loads of us.
But
It's crazy.
like. I don't see why there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I guess there's loads of reasons why people would join a football team.
Yeah. I don't know. It's strange. So I've only been playing football for like 4 years. For 4.5, 5, something like that. Who's counting? I don't think at this point that I would play for like a predominantly heterosexual team, or in like a predominantly heterosexual non-inclusive league.
Do you play each other? Do you play? I mean, do you play in a general league as Stonewall?
No, so with the Stonewall 4th team, which is called the Stonewall Unity Devs, we play in the LUL2. So we play against other inclusive LGBT teams. I don't think that I would like jump over to a team which was like in a predominantly for want of a better, I don't want to say normal, but kind of like a straight,
I don't really mind.
League,
general
I don't want to get
team,
cancelled.
whatever,
Although I'm sure I've said 3 things already that can get cancelled by somebody on Twitter. I would find that to be, I think, too macho of an environment. I think that the LUL and the LL2 and like the gay teams we play already like physically robust enough.
Yeah.
I'm already kind of limping on my right foot because on Sunday we were absolutely clattered by a goalkeeper. And as much as I enjoy a bit of physicality, which is again, not an innuendo. Okay.
Sure. Is there drama? Is there like people who like get with each other? Is there like boyfriends who break up? Do you know what I mean? Do you have all of that?
This is material for the screenplay.
You don't want to share it. Well, we'll know when it comes out.
It's trying to think of what to expose about myself. There has been drama, but also, within Stonewall, there are people who have met and are now in romantic couples, monogamous couples, it was like Tony, the guy I was talking about, my best friend. It was his wedding recently. I think there were 3 couples from Stonewall who attended, all gay couples,
cute.
which is really sweet. And I think. Well, one of them met through Stonewall. The other 2 were players, less managers, who brought their partners. But it's pretty broad actually.
So there's
but,
no
and
like,
then there
I
is
need
also
to move
drama
to another team because I've broken up with X.
Well, this is it. I just don't
X
shit where I
with-
eat.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
I'm
clever.
cautious.
That's very measured of you. Well
You know,
done.
it's kind of like if there was somebody I kind of fancied and they wanted to join a gay football team, I'd just be like, well, Phoenix is pretty great. don't come and play for me and let me captain you.
Well, speaking of gay football theme, I've got a friend of mine who says that when he wears like a football top to a gay bar, he finds it easier to pull.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprised me. I mean, like it's kind of
There's
like it's a
something about,
symbol
like,
of
yeah,
like
I'm giving
macho
masks, you know what I mean?
masculinity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can totally see why that's hot. It's not usually my thing, but I can like personally.
Do you
but I
find
can see it?
Do you find a difference in watching women's football, because it's obviously become more popular, and I know a lot of gay guys who I know don't really like watching male football.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because like we were talking about the just the kind of vibe that like a big group of men have can be quite daunting for some people, and so actually it's easier to access football through female crowds or female players or whatever, but I would say like a big group of lesbians can also be quite daunting, but
yeah, I guess so. I mean, like, I think I should preface this by saying I'm not going to like pretend to be like, I don't watch every single like women's Arsenal game. I try to watch every single women's England game.
Yeah.
But like I don't want to be one of those people who's kind of like virtue signaling and being like, oh, I'm a huge women's football fan. I like it enough, but I've never been to a game personally. I think the thing I'm told often is that like you go to the Emirates for like a women's Arsenal game, and it's a lot more inclusive environment. It's kind of like more family focused. It's less kind of, like I say, like kind of like aggressively heteromasculine and like macho, and like I think the chants are like a little less aggressive and like kind of like, because they can get pretty like, I think the crowds can still get pretty like, violence too extreme a word, but can be like, I think aggressive is just the way to put it. But I always try to, if I know a gay person who has, a kind of preconceived idea of what football is, then women's football is like very much a thing that I try to use as like a platform of entry. I don't want to say like gateway drug, because that I think exactly, because that's not at all the case, and I think that's inadvertently patronizing. But I think it's definitely like a more accessible version of the sport, which I also do like love. I just I think that's like, I've tried to. I have friends who have like been like, okay, fine, so maybe this like really like macho version of the sport is too much for you. However, like I think you'll really love this, because in its own right it is fantastic.
Fair enough. I mean, the thing is, the only reason I would watch football is because like they look good, so I can't really see myself. I'm just not interested enough. I'm really not, I think the last time I actually watched football for properly, well, I did watch like when England got so far or whatever, when we start getting to like the semi-finals, I'm like, fine, okay, I'll watch it or something. But I think the player was Sergio Ramos. I remember fancying him a lot, and I was like,
was it when he had the man bun or the hair down?
Man bun, and there was like a couple on that Spanish team I remember where I was like, okay, I can get into this, but even that could not keep me there for long.
Well, I mean, if the Spanish football players on the magnetic pull that you need to start religiously watching football, then I don't know what's going to change for you.
Well, then, exactly.
It's one of those things. Although England's team is like quite broadly fit at the moment, like somebody like Jude Bellingham. I don't want to objectify English footballers.
Bring up Jude Bellingham. Who's that? Let's see.
Yeah.
Wait, we're gonna do now. Jack rates. The,
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
Handsome,
Do you know what he looks
man.
like? He actually looks a little bit like that looks Maxing guy, Marlon. Do you know who that is?
No, I'm not familiar.
That
but...
you don't need to know.
there we go. Here's your muse.
Oh.
Sergio Ramos.
I don't know. Actually, yeah, there he was alright.
With the neck tats.
Who's this now?
Olivier Giroud.
No, the other one I remember was it began with T. Torres. He was a Spanish Fernando Torres.
Wow, that's so cool. That's before my era.
Oh, well,
that's yeah.
Yeah, I used to fancy
Do you like the long or the short hair?
The long hair, definitely, yeah. Although I'm not really seeing it now. I was a bit.
Something very good about like an Alice band. I think this is.
Where's yours?
Where's mine? Not wearing it today, sadly. On the pitch, maybe. But no. So I think that's like the secret sauce for Jack Grealish. Actually, apart from his, much kind of idolized thighs.
Yeah.
The hair is a great look for him, which I say respectfully. I don't want to objectify anybody.
Well, I think you're allowed to objectify men.